What's up, guys? Welcome to Roensch Capital Charts. Today we're taking a look at Palantir stock, ticker symbol PLTR, on a variety of time frames in anticipation of the next trading day, Friday, April 12th. Alright guys, Palantir stock here today is up 42 cents per share. That's plus 1.87% in regular trading hours here. We got PPI data here this morning. Now, that was kind of a market-wide moving data release, okay? And Palantir, of course, was a beneficiary of that. But let's take a look at this one today and try to pull out everything the market was willing to give us in terms of bias, starting with a quick volume profile analysis here on the 5-minute chart. Listen, guys, Palantir is a daily upload, so if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel. Helps out tremendously. And let me know where you think we're headed here in the comment section. Now let's take a look. Couple of moves I want to first look at. Obviously, this pre-market move we'll just take a brief look at. This fade off the open, and then I do want to take a look at this push that we got to intraday highs. So if we take a look at the volume profile here, now obviously, guys, this move that we got 1 hour before the market opened on PPI, that is obviously going to see some bullish bias, but that was a market-wide data release, right? We're seeing kind of a very similar bias across the entirety of the market today. So we're kind of forced to look at that a little bit differently, but just understand that that is there. Now, in terms of this fade that we got off the open, very contextual open with a high volume open, that's normal. We did see a couple of pops in terms of selling bars, right? But, you know, for me, when you only see like a pop or two, it's hard to assign any real bias because there's a little bit of risk of fooled by randomness, but I'll go ahead and give the bears the benefit of the doubt and say that, listen, on a couple of bars here, we did see a bit of a bearish bias. However, it's really not anything compared to what we saw a little bit later in the day. We saw a couple of pops here, like this here, these couple of pops to the green side kind of offset those earlier pops because we expect lower volume in the middle of the day to begin with. So now we're kind of back at zero, okay, by like 11:20:25 Central Time, okay, like 12:25 Eastern Time. We're kind of back at neutral. But then we have this kind of obvious bullish bias. We expect lower volume at this lunch hour. And as we pushed into intraday highs, we saw increasing volume on about 6 consecutive green bars. Okay, and then as soon as that stock decided to pull back, we saw decreasing volume. Okay, which leads me to believe that there was a pretty obvious bullish bias on that move, that push into intraday highs, which happened to also be kind of right ahead of $23 a share, which is a technical level. All right, let's move on now and take a look at the psychological self-fulfilling prophecy levels here on the 30-minute chart. If you guys remember yesterday's Palantir video, we were talking a lot how we were now beneath both the 50 period and the 200 period moving averages here on the 30-minute chart. Well, today we reclaimed both. Okay, we faded beneath the 50 after the bell rang. Okay, we reclaimed mid-morning, and then on that lunch hour push on the big volume, we pushed up through the 200 period here on the 30-minute chart, and we kind of bounced along that for the remainder of the day and closed just above that level, which is a good thing to see. All right. Now, the more ideal scenario would have been this back test and then a high volume push upside. We didn't get that, you know, but this is kind of like the next best thing. So listen, bulls, tomorrow, any downside test of that 200 period here on the 30-minute, I want to see that bounce hard on high volume to give us an honest shot at reclaiming 23. Whereas bears, 23 is kind of your enemy. We'll talk about that in a second here. But in order to kind of avoid that, you bears want to see a reclaim of this 200 period on the 30-minute as a resistance area, which means a downside break, ideally on as much volume as possible, and then holding beneath that level. All right, let's take a look at the 4-hour now. You can see the 4-hour has been a topic of conversation here on Palantir because we've been struggling to reclaim the 50 period on the 4-hour. And by the way, these charts I keep very simple just to get the most amount of eyeballs because I'm only interested in the psychology. Right, so I want as many eyeballs looking at those same charts that I'm looking at as possible. Well, we closed today making a test of that 50 period, and we're sitting right above it in after hours. So tomorrow's going to be a real test here on the 4-hour. That 50 period is descending at a quicker and quicker rate. So a reclaim of that would be a good little break here for the bulls. But listen, we haven't really spent any time above there in regular trading hours. So tomorrow, bulls, I want to see a high volume push upside away from this 4 hour. Sorry, the 50 period on the 4 hour. Okay, whereas bears, reclaiming that as a resistance is a great thing for you guys to see because it's already in that descending position. Now getting below 23, it just adds an additional psychological barrier back to the upside ahead of 23, which is really what you bears want. Now, the real story here on Palantir, the daily has been very, very in play as of late. Let's take a quick look here. You can see, let's actually zoom in a little bit more. You can see here on the daily that we recently had this crossover of the 50-day moving average above 23. This area here got really interesting, and now these are kind of two separate levels, aren't they? All right, so listen, bulls tomorrow, my best case scenario is a reclaim of this $23 area, get above there as quick as possible, as early as possible in the day, and a great day would be spending most of the day above 23, let the volume flow in and confirm that break, okay, and closing above 23. That would be a great thing to see for the bulls tomorrow. That sets us up, whether it's with an intraday retest or just a close right above 23, that sets us up for a near-term push and test of that ever so important 50-day moving average, which is now sitting at about, 23.40, 23.45. Whereas you bears, listen, again, 23 is your enemy. So any test of 23 bears, you want to see a hard, high volume rejection off of 23. And I can set you guys up for a test of the round number of 22. Okay. And eventually a hard test of the bottom of this channel, which is about 21.30. All right. Implied volatility, if you compare this to the last month or so, a little over the last month, maybe month and a half, it's high. Okay. So a lot of you guys who own contracts are maybe seeing a little bit of help in terms of IV pump from Vega, but understand the higher that goes, the less favorable conditions become to purchase new contracts and the higher the risk of IV crush occurring in the future if we see this return back downside toward the equilibrium. Okay. Which equilibrium is kind of determined by looking at your intended trade time frame and kind of looking at where the average in that time period has been. Now, the expected move on Palantir here tomorrow. We, of course, have an expiration date tomorrow, so we have this data being priced in by the options traders. The expectation of movement by tomorrow's close compared to today's close is plus or minus 52 cents a share, approximately. Okay, so that's based on 22.84. The expectation by close tomorrow is plus or minus 52 cents per share, and that's the volatility expectation, okay, which helps us determine what the market sees as the volatility expectation, which helps out tremendously, especially if we're trading options. But for directional bias, the last thing we can do here, on top of everything we've already looked at here, the options bias. This is all just from today, okay? 180,000 total contracts traded today. 119,000 of those were calls and 61,000 were puts. So we're getting back to a pretty heavy call side bias here on Palantir, which, by the way, has been very normal for Palantir in the last couple of months, believe it or not. Now, the short-term speculators, the 0 to 20 delta range, right? Those are those far out of the money, most gambly style calls and puts with the shortest term average expiration. 43,000 calls, 28,000 puts. Okay, so call side bias out of those, short-term bet placers as well. Guys, every day I'm sending out in play stock alerts. These are stocks that they fit a very specific criteria. These are stocks that are moving, and for my own trading, they provide by far the most edge intraday. Typically a fresh catalyst, elevated relative volume, the bid-ask spread tightens up, right? Liquidity increases for 1 day, maybe a day and a half. And, these are stocks that for a very brief period of time are overrun by emotional and therefore very beatable human traders. Okay, and that's the room I want to be in. So I'm alerting those stocks in real time every day to our members. I'm also putting out my personal daily scalp setup alerts. I'm alerting human verified unusual options activity. Again, I've been tracking that for years, well before I ever offered it as a service. That's how I keep track of what the whales are kind of up to, as well as working with my Platinum one-on-one group every single day. Listen, that link in the pinned comment, that'll let you get grandfathered in at the current rate. Hope to see you join. Listen, if you're getting value out of the Palantir videos, leave a like on the way out. It helps out tremendously. I appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one.